Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hey, everybody! Welcome back to a very exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everyone? I hope you all had a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend. I will admit that last week for me was a little bit tough, but as I later discovered, I had a bit of a burnout, so I had to take a couple of days to go and have a bit of a break, take it easy, take a step back from making videos. But afterwards, I did recover and I did manage to return, now feeling fully energized and right on time to go and do this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. But there is one thing I would like to go and warn you all right now. This is going to be one of those episodes in which Patrick, right at the very beginning, was absolutely correct. This is going to be a case where things will absolutely get crazy, because the stories that I have for you today, oh boy, they are absolutely wild, because we got some updates about some stories that we have previously talked about, but they have some shocking new chapters. And once we are about to get into them, you will see that the insanity is just going to mount higher and higher and higher. But still, though, even though there will be a lot of shock, there will be a lot of surprises, this will also be an episode with a lot of fun as well. I can promise you that. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, who is ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Oh, and I do see that someone has a birthday today. Happy birthday, J.R. DaCosta. Hey, hopefully this will be an episode that will be worthy for your birthday right there. And on top of that, I do see many people are prepared for this episode. That is great. And some people are also asking, is it gonna get weird, like Weirdmageddon? I don't know if I would say if it is going to be weird, but it'll definitely be as chaotic. So with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that we have for you today, we are going to go and take a look at a trailer. And so far, this has to be the shortest trailer that I will show you in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast yet. It's literally just 30 seconds. I mean, it's more like a little bit of a TV plug, more so than it is like a trailer. But still, though, this is our first major look at this series in particular, and I feel like I just gotta really talk about this and really just let out a lot of my feelings into the current status of not just this show in particular, but more of this franchise. So with that said, let us go and begin with our first story that we shall go and watch, in which it shall be the little trailer for the upcoming Nickelodeon series, The Fairly OddParents, A New Wish. Oh, wait a minute. You should be watching that too, so let's go.
I'm Cosmo! And I'm Wanda! And we're My Fairy Guide!
Premieres May 20th, only on Nickelodeon.
So yeah,
Cosmo!
yeah, thank you, Cosmo. So here, might as well go and put this right here, so at least you get a good idea of this series. So yes, people, that is indeed The Fairly OddParents, A New Wish, to which it will be coming soon to Nickelodeon on May 20th, later this month. And I just want to go and start things out by giving out my thoughts on The Fairly OddParents. And I will admit, The Fairly OddParents is not one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows. And I'm not saying that I don't like it. It's just, it's not one of those series that, like, I'm really attached to, or that when I was a kid, I was really committed to watching all the episodes, like either SpongeBob or Rugrats. But it is one of those shows that I did like, and from time to time I would watch it whenever it's on TV, and I would definitely get some good laughs out of it. You know, it's I would say it's one of those Nick shows that I would occasionally watch, not as much as something like SpongeBob, but like sometimes I would. You know, it's very similar to how I feel like with Hey Arnold, for example. Like, I don't watch it all the time, but when it's on, I like to watch it periodically. And it's the same thing with the Fairly OddParents. And when they have some good moments, they can have some great moments. That I cannot deny. Or another one that I will say, like, is among my Nickelodeon favorites, I'll say right now, is actually Jimmy Neutron. Like, I remember I was hooked on the movie, and I was hooked on the TV shows as well. So that's just another one that I like to go and mention. But anyways, going back to the Fairly OddParents, so yeah, from time to time, I do watch it during its prime, and I was entertained by it. But over time, though, it just feels more and more tiring to go and hear about the Fairly OddParents, especially when it was one of those shows that was almost like SpongeBob that Nickelodeon just kept on continuing again and again over the years, and you could tell that the quality just took a significant dip, even when they would try to go and add some new additions as well in order to spice up the series. Like, they would add the baby, and then they would add the dog, and then they would add the girl Timmy that would be next to Timmy Turner, and it was really starting to grow stale. And like, you could tell that not just me, but like a lot of people were starting to become very fed up by the Fairly OddParents, to the point that the show was pretty much done. And ever since then, Nickelodeon would just keep on trying again and again and again in order to bring it back, in order to return the spark of the Fairly OddParents back to what it used to be in its prime. Like, they would bring out like these TV movies, and then of course we probably remember that recent live action series that they tried to do, which was an absolute disaster. And now we got this brand new attempt with A New Wish, which it promises to be this new Fairly OddParents, except the only difference is that now Timmy Turner is not going to be the main kid who will have these fairy godparents, but instead it's going to be this new girl, and it will be set in the modern times. Like, now this is going to be in the 2020s. And even when I watch this, I can't help but feel like I watch the trailer, I watch what they're trying to do, I see their new style with the animation, and I'm just like, I guess. You know, that's honestly the best that I could say. It's just, I guess. Because I guess they're kind of bringing back the Fairly OddParents in a similar way that the show used to be. So this isn't necessarily a reboot, but it's more like a revival. And I do kind of get with what they're doing with the animation. It's very similar to what Blue Sky did with the Peanuts movie, in which it's a CG animated feature with the same textures and the same shading and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's obviously computer animated, but they try to make it as 2D as possible to stick to the original style of their source material of the original series. So a lot of people are saying that it's very much 2.5D, and I'm not saying that it looks terrible, but I don't know. I just don't feel like this style translates as well into that version of 3D or that version of CG as much as the Peanuts movie. It's not that it's not that it doesn't look bad. It's just I don't know. I just see all this and I just feel very uncertain of how this is all necessary. Yeah, I think that's really the biggest thing that bothers me with all this. It's not necessarily the series itself. It's not necessarily the animation. It's not necessarily the new updates with the new characters. It's not necessarily the lack of Timmy Turner. It's just, do we need another comeback of the Fairly OddParents? And I feel like that's the biggest thing that's been bothering me with this. I think the Fairly OddParents are the greatest examples in entertainment, or at least one of the greatest examples in entertainment, of beating a dead horse. That Nickelodeon is just trying again and again and again and again and again to make the Fairly OddParents relevant again, to make them return to their prime, to what they used to be, to bring them back to the popular show that people once loved. But every attempt that they would try to do, they failed. I think they really ran the Fairly OddParents more to the ground than SpongeBob SquarePants. Say what you will with how Nick is handling SpongeBob, but at least the show is still running very strong, or at least the main show and the whole franchise is still very much strong. With the Fairly OddParents, Nickelodeon is still trying to do it again with them, but in this case here, like, every attempt they would try to do, they failed miserably hard, even down to the point where the main franchise very much ran its course. And as much as they would try everything they do to keep it relevant, to keep it popular, and to really spice up with some new elements and some new characters, every time they would try to do that, it just makes things worse and worse and worse. And that's all they've been doing. It's very much that it's with the Fairly OddParents. It's a franchise that feels like it was already finished years ago, but Nickelodeon doesn't want to accept that, so they keep on trying and keep on continuing to make the Fairly OddParents a thing when it shouldn't be a thing anymore. They refuse to move on from it, and they're so desperate to try to capitalize it as much as they tried to do with SpongeBob. But every attempt so far has been a failure. And I mean, look, maybe there is a chance that this could actually work out for them. Maybe this could be the revival that the Fairly OddParents needed. And I mean, some could probably argue that, yeah, sure, this already looks like a step forward when compared to the live action series Fairly Odder, but still though, it's just with so many times that Nickelodeon would try to go and still make the Fairly OddParents relevant, it just makes me tired. You know, it just makes me fed up with each attempt that they would try to do, that I can't help but feel like I'm done with this franchise entirely. You know, they keep promising again and again and again that we would see the return of the Fairly OddParents back to how people used to love it so much and back how it used to be. But honestly, I just felt like, you know, like people have been lied to so many times that I feel like it's probably for the best that you just let go of the Fairly OddParents altogether and just move on to something else. Make something new and have the guts to give it a second season. And not only that, but there's also the extra element of Butch Hartman, which I don't know about you guys, but I can't help but feel like Butch Hartman feels like people are kind of re-platforming Butch Hartman. It's like after the controversies that he went through again and again and again, like after being called out so many times for many of his misdemeanors and with his bad behavior and stuff like that, like, it kind of feels like people have kind of forgotten about it, and now he's being back to being this beloved show creator and beloved animation icon who did the Fairly OddParents and Danny Phantom and stuff like that. Like, I know that recently Saberspark and his team did put out that 90-minute video about the rise and fall of Butch Hartman. But still, though, I personally feel like it feels awkward that Butch Hartman, in a way, is kind of like getting away with like what he has previously done with stuff like Oasis or many of his crowdfunding controversies, or like with his like he and his wife made that statement about autism and stuff like that. Like there's so many like Butch Hartman dramas and controversies to choose from that it feels shocking that like now we're at the point where like, it feels irrelevant. It's kind of like with Doug Walker, where after all these controversies, everybody had decided to move on and just put him back to, like, how people used to view him as like, this great content creator. Like, it's, you know, it's very much like what happened with Doug Walker. It's just people decided to just move on and forget about those controversies. And it's the same thing with Butch Hartman, especially with how Nickelodeon is bringing him back with stuff like this. So, honestly, I'm just going to say, maybe there is a chance that this show could be good. If you are personally excited for this series, then that's great. Don't let my opinions deter you from your expectations or your excitement for this series in particular. Again, maybe there is a chance that A New Wish could actually be pretty good, and back to how Fairly Odd Parents was remembered and beloved. But it's just after everything, after all the controversies with Butch Hartman, after all the failed attempts with Nickelodeon trying to bring back the Fairly Odd Parents, I am just tired. It makes me tired and fed up with this franchise altogether that I just don't want to, I don't want to do anything with it anymore. I just feel like I don't want to go and watch this new series, it's just, I feel like it's, I pretty much accepted that the Fairly Odd Parents is finished. I feel like it's probably for the best that we just move on, because with every new adaptation, with every new remake, with every new attempt of bringing them back, it's just met with embarrassment and failure. If you want to bring them back, the best thing that you can do is just maybe for those major Nickelodeon crossovers, for those racing games and the Smash Bros style fighting game. But other than that, though, I'm done, and I don't think I'm gonna go and watch this series anyways. But if you are interested in watching the Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish, then keep in mind it will be coming soon on May 20th. May 20th of, well, in a few weeks, I guess. So this May 20th. But anyways, I would like to go into the chat wall right now, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the short trailer of the Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish? Are you guys excited to go and check this series out? Are you guys hesitant about it? Let me know what you think. And also, I'm going to go and write on Twitch. I'd like to know your thoughts. So let me just go and make that poll immediately. So, will you be watching the Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish? So then we're going to put in yes, and then we're going to put in no. And now let's go and start the polling. Let's see what people have to say. Anyways, some things never die, huh? I gotta admit, next to SpongeBob, this show was my jam for about 6 seasons. And then it got bad. And then it was really bad when they added that godforsaken dog, and don't even get me started on Chloe. I don't know, man, I have nothing to say. Just let it die already. Bring back something like Barnyard or even El Tigre, but not this. Just let it die. Damn you, Dinkelberg. Exactly, if you want to attract audiences with nostalgia and revive a show, you got many other options to choose from. El Tigre is actually a good idea. I mean, considering that recently it was revealed that Jorge Gutierrez has left Netflix and that his I Chihuahua project was canceled. Why not bring him back so that you can bring back El Tigre? That could be a good option. Or even Barnyard, considering that it kind of became this, this meme trend in which people love taking elements from Barnyard and just turning those into a meme. Why not bring that back? Why not have a Barnyard revival? I mean, it sounds stupid, but if you embrace the stupidity, then you could have something worthwhile with that Barnyard revival. Let's see what else we got. I may not have watched much of the Fairly Odd Parents as a kid, but whenever I did watch a few, I find some enjoyment out of it. Now with the godparents back again, this was I guess. The animation is fine, but at this point, the franchise has been dead to the ground. I watched Saberspark's video on Butch, and he perfectly described the timeline of how the show is going and why it's failing to be relevant again. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just doing a quick little rant in my podcast, with no script or anything. With Saberspark and with him and his team, they are able to perfectly summarize not just the problem with Butch Hartman, but also the problem with the Fairly Odd Parents. And that's why even I kind of question if this version, if this, with this revival of the Fairly Odd Parents, is it even going to work? Because based on what we have seen recently, it's becoming very doubtful. And just double checking on the polls, so far a lot of you are saying no so far. The no's are taking a massive chunk. Let's see now. I'll give it that at least there's no Timmy Turner in this one, but considering that this series has been rebooted several times at this point, Not to mention that Butch Hartman is not a good person. Yeah, this is a hard pass. By the way, Hardman is coming to Denver this summer, which is a big no for me. But Don Bluth coming, shut up and take my money. Oh, I perfectly understand. And yeah, so the poll apparently has been set, and it looks like 82% of you who have voted have said, no, you will not be watching the Fairly OddParents revival. There are a handful of you who did say yes, about 18%, but still, though, it's not looking pretty positive for a new wish. Let's see what else we have here. Personally, I feel very conflicted. On one hand, I do like the animation style, and it does seem like it's going in a different direction. But on the other hand, we're talking about the Fairly OddParents. Considering the repetitive of it in the last few main seasons, the Drake Bell movies, and especially the infamous live-action series, this really feels like this is a franchise that should have died a long time ago. As much as I can't stand the director of SpongeBob is going, it isn't as bad. Yeah, I could definitely feel you there. Let's see. I saw a handful of episodes as a kid, while the early seasons were at least better than the later seasons where they jumped the shark. I prefer watching SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron, that is. Than this. While I don't think it looks bad with the reboot series, it feels unnecessary to have it brought back. After watching videos from Saberspark and Ellis Mark about Butch Hardman's status, I don't want to support it, given how Hardman is a complete scumbag and is a no for me. Yeah, perfectly understandable. And it doesn't look, and it's worth noting that I don't think it has the support of the animation community, especially when, just want to go and quickly mention that even when you look into, the poll, well, not the polls, but when you look at the likes and dislikes on the official trailer uploaded by Nicktoons, like, it does have about 482 likes, but in contrast, it also has over 1,500 dislikes. So maybe I'm not the only one having this sentiment. Like, I know I put out a pretty big rant about the Fairly OddParents. I mean, it was a great show, but I mean, its time has certainly passed. And this thing right over here, and yeah, I'm not specifically talking about experiencing the world's most comfortable pants. I mean specifically, the Fairly OddParents A New Wish. I don't think it's doing the franchise any favors. Let's see what we got here. I mean, this show looks fine. The animation looks pretty good, and I'm glad Sparky's not going to be there. I don't know, dude. My bar for this is insanely low. But do we even need this? Maybe it's my fatigue from Fairly Odder talking, but this just feels like another attempt to fix what ain't broken. Still, I might give it a go, just so as long as there's a version of Timmy that doesn't haunt my dreams. Remember Fairly Odder, Timmy? I can never unsee that image. Yeah, oh boy. And I'll even say that, okay, this might be a bit of a hot take, but personally, I think I'm more tired of I think I'm more tired of Nickelodeon reviving the Fairly OddParents again and again and again than the Disney live action remakes. Like, yeah, sure. I'm definitely tired of Disney making those live action remakes as well. But at least with those, there can be a few that could turn out decent or okay. But with Nickelodeon and the Fairly OddParents, I feel like not only is it that every attempt of bringing it back was an absolute failure, but also, like, it's the same franchise again and again and again and again. At least with Disney, yeah, like, they could bring out some really bad remakes, but at least they do spice it up with some of the different movies in their library. It's not like they're trying to revive Pinocchio continuously again and again and again, you know? Like, they do change things up. There is a bit of a variety with these live action remakes. I'm not saying that the live action remakes with Disney are good. I just feel like even those are far less repetitive than what Nickelodeon is doing with the Fairly OddParents. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we go and move on to our first break. In my thoughts of the Fairly OddParents were okay. The series has classic episodes, the movies were decent, and I'll give it that Chloe was cute, but not enough for me to be a fan, since I had the same problem as other people in the series. Now coming to this, I'll say the animation looks fantastic, but you took the words right out of my mouth. Oh, just give it a rest already. Well, I just want to go and say thank you all so much for showing that I'm not the only one having this kind of sentiment. At least I don't feel alone in feeling like, okay, I think we're having way too much Fairly OddParents. Nickelodeon is just they just keep on repeating the same mistake again and again and again. It's time to lay that thing to rest. But for those of you who are curious to go and check out A New Wish, then keep in mind it will be coming to Nickelodeon on May 20th. And so with that said, we're going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, we are going to go and talk about the parent company of Nickelodeon, Paramount. And you probably know about what's going on with Paramount right now with what they want to do with their future. But it looks like there might be a very shocking twist in our updated story. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, we will be providing you with an update of Paramount. And you probably do recall about what's currently happening with the big company altogether, Paramount Global. Now, this is something that I've been updating from time to time about what is the current status. Considering that right now, the company is in very, very bad shape. Because lately, things have not been going well, not just with the typical, having the occasional box office bombs, but just business has been going very bad, especially when Paramount Plus has been such a detriment to the company, in which it knocked it down to the point where now, if it wants to go and survive and keep its legacy alive, it would have to go and sell itself to another major corporation. That someone bigger is going to come in to go and acquire or merge with Paramount in order to go and stay alive. And so far, there have been some companies that did show some interest. The most prominent one being Skydance Media, whom they've expressed that they wanted to go and actually acquire Paramount Global. But then, not too long ago, I actually talked about Sony and Apollo Global Management, in which they decided to go and collaborate to see if they could go and acquire Paramount so that Sony can have a bit of a merger with that particular company. But it looks like we got a shocking new chapter, because last week, oh boy, there have been some wild events that have occurred again and again and again, and now we got a big update in terms of the deals that Paramount has been given. And so far, it might not happen. Yes, it has been revealed that there is a very strong likelihood that the deal with Skydance Media might not actually happen, that Paramount is just going to say no and they would walk out altogether. Now, one thing that I would like to go and clarify, like just make a big statement, is that so far, nothing is officially set in stone. There is a likelihood that maybe a deal could ultimately happen in this. But based on reports, it looks like now there is a very strong chance that Paramount is going to refuse the offer that Skydance has provided to Paramount. In fact, let me just go and, was there a source that I could go and read? Or, okay, maybe not yet, actually. Before I would go and read anything from my source here in Variety, now at this point, you might be thinking that, okay, well, if the Skydance deal is not going to work out entirely, then would that mean that the other deal is going to occur? What about Sony and Apollo? Will Paramount go and accept that? Well, apparently not, because even in this article here, they stated that Paramount is going to refuse both. And for the reason as to why Paramount is not going to accept Sony and Apollo's offer is for the similar reasons that I have told you before, especially with the fact that, again, Sony or at least the big company, the Sony Corporation, is a Japanese company. And having a foreign company come in and go and make it acquire a U.S. company like this, it would lead them into some serious legal troubles. Now, I could go and read you from my source right over here on Variety. Like it even says right at the beginning, insiders tell Variety that the expectation at a company is that neither of the two offers in play, Skydance Media, Redbird Capital Partners, and Sony Pictures Entertainment, Apollo Global Management, will come to fruition. And Redstone is said to have reluctantly concluded that a deal with David Ellison's Skydance, a longtime partner with Paramount, will not be possible. So overall, from all this, it looks like there is a very strong possibility that after all the negotiations and after all the possible deals, Paramount is just going to go and walk out alone, that they would rather move on and try to figure out what they can do by themselves instead of being under new management. There is also another quote. I just want to go and double check if there's anything in particular that would be worth mentioning. Okay, I'll go with right over here, in which it says Redstone, who has final say over what a deal to accept, is known to be loath to sell her family's media company to a private equity-backed buyer. Those familiar with Redstone's thinking says she remains open to any deal that's in the best interest of shareholders and that she supports the Paramount Special Committee's review of the Sony Apollo overture. That said, the Sony Apollo offer appears to be more attractive to Paramount Global's Class B non-voting shareholders than the Skydance deal. If a sale to Sony Apollo is deemed unworkable, the most likely outcome is that Paramount Global will not proceed on either front, given the threat of investor legal action were the company to move forward with Skydance. So overall, to make this long story short, basically, right now, let's see what else. Someone did share another article. So apparently the Paramount board are currently looking into the deal of Sony and Apollo. Okay, so apparently that might be the case. But either way, though, so far, like, nothing is set in stone, and none of the deals have officially been said no. But now we are faced with the legitimate possibility in which neither Skydance nor Sony and Apollo would get a chance to go and acquire Paramount Pictures. That there is a chance that either of them will be denied and that Paramount will be moving forward by themselves. And I just want to say right now, this is pretty freaky and honestly pretty shocking as well. Because I know that not many people out there are fans of mergers and acquisitions. Like, either way, it would still suck if Paramount does end up being acquired by either Sony and Apollo or Skydance and stuff like that. You know, you hate to see things like that happen, or especially when you see a company like Paramount that was once oh so mighty in the industry and has significantly fallen. But I just gotta say, this right here, the fact that maybe Paramount is gonna go and walk out of all this alone, this might be the worst case scenario, especially for Paramount Pictures, because let's say that is the case. Let's say Paramount decided that they would no longer, they don't want to go and accept any of the deals. Like, whatever's been offered to them, Paramount's just going to say no, and they're going to move on. In that case, they're pretty much in Craps Creek without a paddle, because especially in the recent weeks, as these negotiations kept on continuing, Paramount was in a position that just puts them like in a spot that's just worse and worse and worse and worse, because you got many top executives, including the CEO Bob Bakish, who decided to just abandon ship. They left the company, and they had to go and do like this massive emergency where 3 of the top executives at Paramount have to step in order to become the new CEO. And many of what were the big heads at Paramount, they're just flat out gone. You also got the factor of Paramount Plus, which is gaining more and more of a reputation of being one of, if not the worst streaming platform that is currently on the market, not because of the content that they would go and offer, but because of the functionality that a lot of people have reported that it is just so glitchy, it barely works. So in that regard, it makes Paramount less and less appealing and been gathering more hate over the months. And from there, you just look at all the possibilities, you just look at like all the outcomes and look at how Paramount is currently standing right now. They are in just serious trouble. Like, it's not just a case of, oh, what does the future hold for Paramount? What does Paramount's future going to look like? Now the question, or at least there is a possibility where we would have to go and ask, does Paramount have a legitimate future? Because if they're not going to get their act together, if they're not going to go and agree on a deal with any of these other companies, then honestly, we don't know. And I mean, like with the other ones, I understand like the arguments. Like there was at one point I did talk to a friend of mine, and we did have a little bit of a discussion about the Paramount deals that has been going on, and that there is a chance that they could refuse all of them. And at that point, one thing that my friend did mention is that that there is a possibility that the reason why Paramount is refusing the Skydance Media deal is because of their affiliation with China. Now, I'm not saying that Skydance Media is a Chinese company, but there is a bit of a connection where or at least one of the big corporations that is handling Skydance Media is from China and does have a bit of a connection with the Chinese government. And, well, we all know about how the US government feels about China and their government right there, especially with how they are just ready to just ban TikTok altogether. So in that regards, like that is an interesting theory. Maybe that could be the case to why Paramount wants to step away from Skydance Media to like distance themselves from any relationship with China or the Chinese government whatsoever, but I don't know. But then again, you can also go and make a bit of the same argument with Sony and Apollo, that if you, like, I know it's not China and it is Japan, but like I said before, like, is the US still going to be cool with a foreign company owning a media corporation like Paramount? That I honestly don't know. That still feels massively iffy right there. So at that point, it just feels massively uncertain, and now it just makes it honestly a bit more frightening. And yeah, like I know some people are saying like, Japan is a friendly country, but it still technically counts as a foreign country having control over a US media corporation. It's not, it has nothing to do with the relationship between US and Japan. It's actually in the law that they cannot do that whatsoever. And if they do accept the deal from Sony and Apollo, I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of changes and there's going to be a lot of pieces that are going to be broken. And I don't know if that means that maybe they're going to have to go and sell away CBS in its entirety, or maybe they'll also have to sell away Nickelodeon, because that is also technically a broadcast station. Like, there's going to be some very drastic changes in order to go and properly adapt to the deal in a way that can actually feel legal. So in that case, who knows what the future does hold, but still, I just feel like it is worth talking about, because I did actually talk about this. Let's see. I believe Apollo will own CBS if the deal occurs. Well, maybe. I mean, I like, again, keep in mind that it just, like, like, in my opinion, like, if I would have the choice, I would much rather have the Skydance Media deal than the Sony and Apollo deal, because, again, it just feels like this is a case where Paramount in its entirety is just going to be broken into pieces, and like a lot of the at that point they're just going to go and like sell it in parts, where you'll see like CBS is going to be that way, Nickelodeon is going to be that way, Paramount Pictures is going to be this way. Like, it's going to be going in all different kinds of directions, to the point where like the legacy is going to be completely broken, and you'll have different companies owning a lot of the pieces. So from there, it just makes it, like, that's why it's kind of like frightening to imagine what does that particular future would go and hold with Paramount. But going back to what I was talking about, I just feel like it is worth mentioning. It is worth discussing about this particular update, because now things are looking pretty frightening for Paramount. Like, are they going to move forward alone? Are they actually going to go and accept a deal? Because I just want to let you know right now, there have been some other people who did express that maybe Skydance is ultimately going to come out as the winner. Even if Paramount would say no right now, like, Skydance is still going to go and try to give it another shot. Like, especially when given that they've gotten the approval from people like James Cameron and Jeffrey Katzenberg, where they got the confidence that David Ellison, the head of Skydance, will manage to pull through and make a good deal for Paramount Pictures. So that could be the possibility, but then again, who knows? Maybe there is also another possibility that another company could just randomly step in, that maybe you would have either Amazon or you would have Apple suddenly coming in and have interest in owning Paramount. Like, if this will continue, then this could give us, it could give companies more time to have some consideration that maybe they would want Paramount after all. Oh, and there is also another thing I want to mention about how Paramount right now is in serious trouble. Like, I know I listed how Paramount Plus is a massive detriment. You got the top executives that they bailed out, but I just thought of this right now. It's like, oh, now I remember. There's also another major thing that did occur that spells trouble for Paramount, but you got Warren Buffett, who owned 10% of Paramount Global. He decided to go and sell all of his shares and all of his stocks, and just accepted to go and take the L and admitted that he is just going to lose money. That so far business has been so bad that even for people like Warren Buffett, having shares and stocks of Paramount is just not worth it anymore. Another very troubling sign as to how things are going so bad with Paramount. So overall, yeah, it's just looking very freaky. There's a strong chance that maybe none of the deals are being accepted. Paramount is in a far worse position than it has been in a long time, if not ever. And yeah, it's just like, looking at this, it feels like its future is being very questionable. I don't know whichever direction is going to be. Maybe there is a chance that you will see, like, maybe it'll accept that deal with Skydance. Maybe it'll accept the deal with Sony and Apollo. Maybe it's going to walk out alone. Who the fridge knows? But so far, it's been unpredictable. It's been wild. And I'm still going to go and keep an eye on what's going to be happening with Paramount. But I'm just going to say now that this story is becoming freaky. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think of this new chapter in the Paramount deal? Do you think Skydance is going to get Paramount? Do you think Sony and Apollo will get it? Or do you think they're going to walk out empty-handed? In fact, let's go and do something a little bit interesting. Now, I want to go and ask the chat wall. I would like to go and ask you. I'll go and make an interesting poll, and I would like to ask, what do you think will happen to Paramount? So we'll say acquired by Skydance. Hold on a sec. I gotta go and spell that correctly. Acquired by Sony/Apollo, or it will not accept a deal. So let's see. We're going to go and put this poll up. This is going to be an interesting one. And at this point, I'm going to go and read the chat wall and see what you all have to say. I am really, really scared for Paramount Pictures. They aren't doing well, and they are struggling like hell. I don't want a merger. We're heading towards a monopoly. If either case, Paramount is going bankrupt or being consumed by another media conglomerate. Hold on a sec. The comment is going away from me. Anyways, it makes me think back to The Offer, where in Paramount was almost sold off had it not been for The Godfather. This was also a scary thing in show, out of universe, and it's now harsher in hindsight with history repeating. Exactly. I mean, if history does repeat itself, then maybe there is that happy ending that they will come out fine. But yeah, there's just a lot of these possibilities that now we have to add into the option that maybe there is a chance that Paramount might go bankrupt. I mean, that's a low chance, but it's not zero now. That, and also, you never know if like some older deals might come back. Like, maybe this could be the opportunity that Warner Brothers could suddenly step in and say, hey, I changed my mind. Do you want to go and do that merger? You know, there is that chance too, but I don't know, man. It's getting freaky. I could say that now. Let's see what else we got. This is crazy going on over at Paramount. From shareholders against the Skydance deal, including former head Bob Bakish, who got fired because of it, to the collapse of the executive deal, leading board members and counsel currently negotiating with Sony and Apollo, and now maybe no deal at all. The chaos is still ongoing over at the studio right now, and I want to see what the conclusion is right now, as I'm invested in 24/7, but whoever wins, we the consumers lose altogether regardless. Yeah, that is kind of that is kind of a sad conclusion there. And yeah, you do bring up some good information that I haven't fully clarified there. It is true that like right now things have gone really heated with the deals and what is it that shareholders want and stuff like that, and what the top executives also want. Like there's a massive clash. Like some don't want the Sony and Apollo deal. Some don't want the deal with Skydance, and that's why things have really gone into chaos down to the point where, like, we're seeing a little bit of an implosion going on. Like, maybe not, like, an instant one, but it's, like, gradually happening where all these deals and negotiations, like, right now, they are Paramount's biggest enemies. And if they don't make a conclusion, if they don't accept anything right now, the worse it is going to be, and the more harmful it shall be to Paramount. Let's see what else we got. Oh, and I just want to go and say that apparently none of you think that it will be acquired by either Sony and Apollo. So nobody voted on that, but 53% of you say that there is a possibility that it will end up being acquired by Skydance, while 47 of you actually say that there might not be any deals that Paramount will go and accept. Very interesting. So we got those mixed results, but we can pretty much unanimously agree that in the outcome of this, Sony and Apollo ain't getting Paramount. Or at least, like, maybe that's what you guys don't want. There is also that too. And trust me, I don't think anybody would want that. Let's see now. This honestly is something that did surprise me. Considering all the talks that have occurred between Paramount and Skydance, I thought they would merge. Unless this would be something as bad as the Warner Brothers Discovery, and it really is making Paramount's future very questionable at this point. Personally, I feel like if they don't merge, one thing they might do is just shut down Paramount Plus to attempt to save themselves. And that is true. There have been some people who did state that if they're going to walk out alone, or regardless of what the outcome may be, like one of the biggest questions in terms of the fate is regarding Paramount Plus, because rather if it would be acquired, merged, or not, some people might say that we could soon see the end of Paramount Plus. And what they might do instead is that they'll be like, Paramount might be like Sony, and they're just going to go and distribute their features on whatever streaming platform might want them. Like, might go back to Netflix, or go to Peacock, or go to Amazon, or even go to Disney Plus. I mean, that's what Sony did after all. You know, like, first go to Netflix and then go to Disney Plus, and we could be seeing that pretty soon this year. So who the fridge knows? Like honestly, maybe we'll still have Paramount, but are we going to still have Paramount Plus? I really don't know. Let's see now. I'll be honest, I don't exactly have full words since I'm not really a business person, but I do see the circumstances as pretty concerning that Paramount might be coming to a critical point that they might shut down. And in my logic, that means things like SpongeBob might need to find a new home. And just when I thought Warner Brothers were having a bad time, this feels like it's a worse idea yet. I don't see what's completely wrong with combining with Skydance. The future seems bleak. Exactly. You know, it's very interesting to see the internet where they would like to go and have their targets to make fun of and say that their businesses are going bad and that they're failing and stuff like that. Like, especially with either Warner Brothers or Disney, but both of them are still in way better shape than in Paramount right now. Like, they got it worse than any of the major studios right now. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment, and then we're going to jump on to the our next break and our next story. Let's see. After hearing this, I am surprised and terrified at the same time. Paramount has not been doing well in recent years, especially with their incompetent higher-ups and Paramount Plus. I watched the Super Bowl and it was just giving me a black screen, which frustrated me. I can understand why it's the worst streaming service right now. If Paramount went on their own instead of an acquisition, what would happen to their properties like South Park and SpongeBob if they get bankrupt? But I honestly, I don't think I can really go and answer you in terms of that. I mean, I'm not really a business person either. You know, I'm just making my educated guesses. But honestly, this is something where we would have to go and take it one step at a time. Like, just take it one step and see like how things are going to go and turn out. Maybe things will get better. Maybe things will get worse. But who the fridge knows? All right, so we're going to go and take our next break. And when we do come back, we're going to go and lift up the mood as we are going to go and talk about a brand new TV channel. One that promises to be the ultimate channel dedicated to classic cartoons. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you guys are not too tensed up after that last story. But don't you worry, we're going to go and really pick up the mood. We're going to go and talk about something that's going to be exciting and something that I think, especially for animation fans, you are about to get hyped up for this. This is honestly one of the most exciting news, especially for classic animation. But don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and check out this little trailer. One that promises not a new movie, not a new show, not anything like that, but rather a TV channel. So, may I introduce to you all MeTV TOONS.
Quiet, gentlemen, I have something important to announce.
Yes, folks, this is MeTV TOONS, which basically you take the MeTV channel, but you update that in order to make it entirely based on cartoons. So the big news is that the Weigel Broadcasting Company has teamed up with Warner Brothers Discovery in order to create this brand new channel called MeTV TOONS, in which it is dedicated to go and air and only air classic cartoons from the from the golden age of animation, like back in the 1930s and 40s and stuff like that, all the way up to a little bit recent, where they would go and air some nostalgic, retro animated shows that were from the 80s, 90s, and even a little bit of the early 2000s. In fact, even when you go on the website of MeTVToons.com, you will see like on the top and on the bottom that they would have a variety of cartoons that they would go and air. So, of course, they would have a lot of the Warner Brothers collection. So, of course, you get a whole bunch of the Looney Tunes, you get the Hanna-Barbera shows, you get the MGM cartoons, you get the Tex Avery cartoons, and all that kind of stuff. You get Tom, and of course, like, along with Tom and Jerry and stuff like that. And then, of course, like, when you do look up, you'll see like a variety and like a variety of cartoons and some familiar faces as well. Like you see, there's Beetlejuice, you got Transformers, you got Freakazoid, you got Crypto the Super Dog, Josie and the Pussycats, you got Speed Racer here, you got the 2003 Duck Dodger series, you got Scooby-Doo, you got Shaolin Showdown, you got Mr. T, you got Captain Planet, you got Baby Looney Tunes, you got Popeye with olive oil right over here. Even when you look at the bottom, you got Captain Caveman, Magilla Gorilla, Huckleberry Hound. I saw The Mask was there. They even promised Inspector Gadget. You got Two Stupid Dogs. You got Wacky Races. You got Betty Boop. You got Woody Woodpecker, Heathcliff, and many, many, many more. But don't take my word for it, though. There is also Jerry Beck, the renowned animation historian, who does have a few words to go and describe cartoon research, since he is going to be a key player in this channel where he's going to go and help out with providing many of the growing amount of cartoons that will be presented on this channel. So just reading from my source here on cartoonresearch.com, Jerry Beck states, "Beyond the press release, everybody should know that there is much I cannot talk about yet as to what this new network has planned. But if you know me, read my books, know my blogs, you'll have to take my word that this announcement today is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's go over what I can tell you. Number one, this is not another Boomerang. As best I could describe it, think 1992 Cartoon Network times 100. On steroids, available for free everywhere. It's an over-the-air channel like your local MeTV digital sub-channel, and with your help, by consumer demand, it will also be available on a variety of cable systems and streaming services. In addition to the entire Warner Brothers library of animated shorts, series, and features, which you all know is Looney Tunes, Popeye, MGM, Tex Avery, etc., We'll be mining the vaults at Sony with the Columbia and UPA cartoons, Universal with the Walter Lantz, Harvey Toons, Underdog, and many others as well, and other major studios. We will also be resurrecting classic TV shows unavailable, in some cases, for over 50 years. Tip of the iceberg, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Speed Racer, stuff I can't tell you about yet because we want to surprise you throughout the first year. There are no plans for this channel to ever produce new animation, as Cartoon Network did. This is a classic cartoon channel devoted to the history of animation. So basically, in every single way that you can imagine, this is all for the sake of classic nostalgia. Like, not just the shows themselves are all for classic nostalgia, but also the way that you would go and watch it. And I must say that this is a pretty bold move of what they are doing here, of making a brand new TV channel, especially when you think about, like, nowadays, we're in the age of streaming and internet videos. Like, people are a lot more accustomed to go and watch their programs and watch their favorite works whenever they want, however they want. Like, whether it be portably, wherever they go, or just on the TV, they have the choice of whenever they go and watch whatever they can. But then comes MeTV TOONS, where this is a classic TV channel where they are the ones who are in control of when you would watch whatever programs. Like, they're in control of putting up whatever show is going to be on TV and stuff like that. So if you want to go and, for example, you want to watch The Smurfs or you want to watch Freakazoid, then you have to know at what time they're going to go and air, and that's when you are going to go and watch it. And no, you don't even have the choice of which episode you're going to go and watch. They are going to go and make that selection for you. So you have to go and like watch it occasionally again and again if you want to go and experience that. So it's bringing back that kind of classic experience. And you know, it does seem very interesting. And as you all know, I'm not just an animation fan, but also an aficionado of the history of animation. It did get me curious, and I did ask on Facebook, what is there a difference between what MeTV TOONS is doing, or is there something that it stands out compared to Boomerang, for example, or what Boomerang used to be? And by the way, I asked that before I saw this article on Cartoon Research, and it was actually Bob Bergen who did respond to me. Bob Bergen, as you guys probably know, is the veteran voice actor who is known as the modern voice of Porky Pig in the recent iterations of Looney Tunes. And he actually responded to me by saying that, well, technically, you just answered your own question there. Yes, it will be a bit like that, but it's going to be so much more. Just to think about what Boomerang used to be, what Cartoon Network used to be when it first aired on TV, and just make it so much more. Just amplify that, like what Jerry Beck said, by 100. And by the way, just on a quick side note, that Bob Bergen is going to be working on MeTV TOONS, where he's going to be the official voice, where he has been working for a while as the guy doing all the promos, like, coming up next is the Looney Tunes. Then afterwards, it will be Woody Woodpecker. Then after that, it will be Yogi Bear. You're watching MeTV TOONS. Like, Bob Bergen is going to be doing that for the program. And by the way, I just want to go and quickly point out that technically this is not the first time that the MeTV channel has shown interest in animation. If you do watch the channel, or if you do have it, then you're probably familiar with the special program called Tune In With Me. In which that is a special anthology series where they would go and air classic cartoons. Like, they would show, like, most of it is Looney Tunes because of its affiliation with Warner Brothers Discovery, or at least a lot of the Warner Brothers cartoons. But from time to time, they would also show a bit of others as well. Now, it is worth noting, by the way, it is important to go and mention that Tune In With Me is still going to be airing on MeTV. That is still going to be a thing even after MeTV TOONS. It's just that now with MeTV TOONS, they will have an additional channel where they will put in a lot of focus on animation, or in this case here, all of their focus on animation. And I gotta say, you know what? This is actually really cool because, like, as we all know, over time, like, both Boomerang and Cartoon Network have absolutely changed over the years, down to the point where when you look back to, like, when they first aired, they're like virtually unrecognizable nowadays, that they would go and air a lot of the new shows that would be on Cartoon Network. And even like with Boomerang as well, it's like a little bit different. Or like, is Boomerang still on, by the way? Maybe I'm wrong on that. But anyways, the whole thing though is that, like, now it is now with MeTV TOONS, it's kind of bringing back that element of what television used to have. Because there was a time when, like, back in the 2000s, okay, so apparently Boomerang is still on, but there was a time when we do have a few channels that they would dedicate themselves with classic TV shows, especially with classic cartoons, that they would periodically go and air them for those people who do feel nostalgic for those older shows and are not as interested to the newer shows. That's why Cartoon Network had stuff like Boomerang, or even in Canada, we had something similar where Teletoon was kind of like our Cartoon Network, but then they would also have Teletoon Retro, where they would go and air those older shows as well, like with the Looney Tunes, or they would also air stuff like the old Hanna-Barbera Marvel shows, or even Rocket Robin Hood and stuff like that. But in this case here, like now seeing MeTV Toons coming back with it, honestly, it does feel like it's it does feel a lot of fun. It does feel like there is that element of television that is kind of coming back. So at least there is that option. And honestly, I do hope that for animation fans, they will have a chance to go and experience that, not just for the classic cartoons that they would go and offer, but for that nostalgic television experience. It would be like a break from any of it would be a break from like how it works right now, a break from the internet, a break from streaming service, like to go back to a simpler time, how this was the way that we used to watch our cartoons. This was the way that like we would go and catch up with whatever's on TV, that we never really had the choice of which episode we want to watch or whenever we would go and watch it. Like just have the chance to go and watch it on TV whenever it would air. Like it does offer a bit of a unique experience. There is a little bit I know maybe I know I am getting old as well. Like I am, and like I've entered upon my 30s, and like I remember when I was a kid, like I used to be really hooked on that. Like I used to really enjoy just watching television that way. But still, like, it would be a fun experience to see animation fans getting into that as well. For God's sakes, now the chat wall is making me feel old. Like, you accusing me of me being a boomer? No, I'm not. Shut up. I'm still young. I'm still hip. But anyways, also, I just want to go and make one clarification that when it comes to MeTV Toons, it is true that not all the cartoons are going to be available. It's not literally going to be like every single cartoon that you can imagine is going to be available into this. Like, there is some clarifications that need to be made. Like, first and foremost, what they are not going to air are the shows that are made exclusively for the TV channels that are still running right now. So like those Cartoon Network shows and those Nickelodeon shows, they are not likely to go and also air on MeTV Toons. So that's going to be unlikely. Rather it be stuff like Ren and Stimpy or Dexter's Laboratory and stuff like that. The chances of those airing on MeTV Toons are honestly pretty unlikely. So I don't think that's going to be happening. But then there is also another category of cartoons that the chances of that being on MeTV Toons are very unlikely. Disney. I mean, it is true. Like, when you do look at, with Disney's catalog of classic cartoons and stuff like that, you would think that they would be an absolute perfect fit for MeTV Toons. Like, this would be the one place where you would go and, like, periodically go and watch the Silly Symphonies, or you would watch Disney, or you would watch, the Mickey Mouse cartoons and stuff like that. But chances are, nah, that ain't happening either, especially with how very protective, or I would even say overprotective, of how Disney is with their programs, with the works that they have done. I don't really see Disney going out of their way to go and say, yeah, sure, MeTV Toons, you could go and air some of our cartoons. Yeah, go ahead. There's no problem with that. Unfortunately, I think those chances are extremely unlikely, knowing how Disney feels about their content, especially if it would mean mingling with others. Like, if it would mean you would have, I know we've seen it often with stuff like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or the cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, or even the recent Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, but Disney is not often a big fan of having their characters like Mickey, Goofy, and Donald mingle with characters like Bugs Bunny or Woody Woodpecker and Daffy Duck and all that kind of stuff. I'm just letting you all know right now. But still, though, I think, as an animation fan myself, I think MeTV Toons is such an epic idea, and I am very curious to see what the channel would have in store for us. And if you are interested in checking out MeTV Toons, I do believe they do have a specific date of when it's going to be coming out. And yes, it is confirmed that MeTV Toons will be officially launched on June 25th. So mark your calendars for that. All right, so with that said, I now would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think of MeTV TOONS? Are you guys curious to go and check that one out? Are you guys still gonna be sticking with streaming? I would like to know what you all think about this. All right, let's see what we got. I gotta say, I'm very excited for MeTV TOONS becoming a thing. I really do hope it does last longer for multiple generations to enjoy. Something Cartoon Network / Boomerang's supposed to do decades ago. It's pretty cool that Jerry Beck is heavily involved with this. Also, seeing some obscure Cartoon Network shows on there is a major plus for me. I just said hi to Charlie, aka Theme Snark today. Ooh, awesome. Hey, how's the guy been doing? It's been a while since I've heard from him. Hopefully he's been doing fine. Anyways, let's see what else we got. As much as I do enjoy my streaming services to choose what I want to watch, I do enjoy just turning on the TV to see what's on at random, and being a huge fan of classic cartoons myself, I am absolutely looking forward to this. In fact, my roommates and I have put the premiere of MeTV TOONS on our calendar as a must-watch. Oh, awesome. Wow, you're already hyped up for it. Oh, let's see what else do we have. So this is Boomerang 2.0. Well, technically Jerry Beck has clarified this is not another Boomerang. I mean, I appreciate this greatly and respect it conceptually, but I think it'll just end up like Boomerang. Though, that'll take 10 years. This might be fun, so I'll respect it. I'll probably watch it to see Josie and the Pussycats. I watched a few episodes, and I'm surprised how the black girl Valerie was treated as the smartest person and treated as an equal among the white characters. Awesome for a 70s character, so yeah, this, I think I will check out the channel. Well, I mean, the thing is that so far, like, Jerry Beck has clarified that there will be no new shows that will be airing exclusively for MeTV TOONS, and I don't think there is a clarification of, like, the time period of, like, how old do the shows have to be in order to be a part of MeTV TOONS. Again, the latest show that has been confirmed from what I've seen is so far Duck Dodgers and Shaolin Showdown, but we will see. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but I am hoping that they will stay true to just airing classic cartoons. Like, you know, I don't know if they're going to go as far as to, like, add in some, like, slightly newer shows where suddenly, like, over the years where, like, in 2030, suddenly they'll accept the 2010 shows. Like, it's not like, you know, like, we're in, you know, we're not going to be, like, in 2035 and then suddenly we're going to watch Steven Universe in MeTV TOONS. I don't know if that's going to really be a thing. But I am trusting the team behind MeTV with the Weigel Broadcast Company, with people like Jerry Beck and those running the channel. Hopefully they will stay true to their commitment of just airing classic cartoons. Anyways, I know it's kind of funny that for a channel that celebrates the classic cartoons from the decades, returning to old television makes me happy. The fact that we're getting more than decades of cartoons till the 90s is astounding. And I got to say, this is hilarious that people are complaining that television is dying and that streaming service is the next new thing. And look what happened to all the companies taking away for a tax write-off. Exactly. I think we have learned from the Paramount story that not all companies are good at streaming. You know, there are some that have been failing badly, like what I've mentioned before with Paramount Plus, and even with HBO Max, or Max as it likes to call itself now, like, it's not doing so hot. So honestly, returning back to television could actually be an alternative. Who knows? Maybe the people at the Weigel Broadcasting Company with stuff like MeTV TOONS, they might be onto something. Let's see now. I have been on a classic cartoon binge lately, and this is a great idea for a channel for many animation historians and fanatics, especially since streaming platforms have been taking off nostalgic shows as cost-saving tactics, like when Max took off a huge chunk of their Looney Tunes. I probably will consider revert to cable. Man, who would have thought that would be a thing? Like, now we're seeing some animation fans going like, yeah, you know, streaming sucks. Let's get back to cable. All right. Anyways, what other comments would there be? Let's see. Oh, okay. This is honestly a wonderful idea. The fact that we are getting a channel dedicated to classic and iconic series is really amazing, and I can see how this is something that animation fans will love. Not to mention, we'll get content that isn't available on streaming services. Case in point, some of the Looney Tunes cartoons no longer being available on Max. Again, bringing that up. No, I do get what you mean. I definitely do understand, like, especially how that's been a pretty controversial thing. The fact that, okay, well, you can't find any of the classic cartoons you want to look for on any of the streaming services, and maybe you're going to have a hard time finding it on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, so at least now, with MeTV TOONS, we could legitimately have an alternative. All right, let's see what else we have. Let's see. Well, this sounds like a great idea. I feel like it feels like a boomerang next gen. It may sound like a bold move, but I think it's some idea worth expressing. The shows I want to watch from it are Casper the Friendly Ghost, Speed Racer, Woody Woodpecker, and maybe Shaolin Showdown. You know, the cartoons that didn't air on Boomerang. Even though I don't have DirecTV anymore, I still feel like I want to check this out. Which favorite cartoon would you want to watch on MeTV TOONS? Well, for me, honestly, I would be down to watch a lot of the Hanna-Barbera shows. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, I had a period where, like, I was on a full-on binge of watching a lot of the Hanna-Barbera content, especially Wacky Races. If there's one show I'm down to check out again on TV, I want to watch Wacky Races. It was one of my favorite, or my absolute favorite Hanna-Barbera show. So watching that again on television, oh my god, it's going to bring back those beautiful, young, youthful days. Oh, let's see now. I'll read one more comment and then we'll move on. Let's see here. I'll say that it is a great idea to use television today. I actually feel excited for it since we really reached the time where not even the classic tunes would air on Boomerang, and I'm familiar with MeTV. I actually watch their airing of cartoons with my neighbor on weekends, and some of them are just joyous just to be back on the old days of cartoons. Now that they have their own channel to premiere them full time, nostalgia would definitely be the key point, even for the newer audience. Exactly. I think, you know, like, for both young and old, I think this is a wonderful experience. I think this is like a very nice addition to animation in general, where in a way you could say that MeTV TOONS is the new retirement home of classic cartoons. And if you ever want to re-experience them again like you did back when you were a kid, this is going to be the way to go. And once again, just keep in mind, if you are excited for MeTV TOONS to be on the air on television, then keep in mind it will be premiering on June 25th. So just check with your local service provider and then you can go from there. All right, so we will be right back. And when we do come back, speaking of Disney, since I did mention that a little bit on this story, we're going to be back and discuss about a particular trailer that we have talked about last week. We know that the receptions ain't great, and when it comes to defending the case of that teaser trailer, oh boy, it's not been going well, so stay tuned for that. And we are back. Now, when it comes to our next story, we're going to go and look back at a teaser trailer that we have talked about last week, which is the Mufasa, the Lion King. And the reception, well, it's been, at best, mixed. Like, if I want to be very generous to the movie, it's been getting mixed reactions. Mainly because of the fact that, well, let's just say that it has not been changing people's perspectives when it comes to Disney's live-action remakes. Those who do like it, especially those who did enjoy the 2019 Lion King movie, they're definitely going to be excited to go and watch Mufasa. That is for sure. But for those who don't like Disney's live-action remakes, oh boy, did they not enjoy that teaser trailer, and they have been very vocal about it, especially when they would go and bash everything that they can look for and find in that trailer. They hate the animation, they hate the idea of it, they hate the fact that they got certain people involved with that project, they hate just about everything. You know, much like with how they feel with all the other live action remakes or with Disney in general, it's just been a target of something that people want to go and complain and hate about. But there have been attempts to go and defend the feature. There is one person in particular who wants to go and stand up for Mufasa to say that maybe this movie actually is worthwhile. But the defenses, on the other hand, oh boy, they have not been working out. So with that said, let's go and talk about director Barry Jenkins. And when it comes to Barry Jenkins, after the release of the teaser trailer of Mufasa, he did notice, especially on Twitter, that many people were just not happy about it. That they were pretty much expressing their rants, their anger, their disapproval just for the existence of Mufasa the Lion King. And Barry Jenkins would go and try to stand up for the movie and try to explain his case, even replying to some of those people on Twitter. Going into my source here on Variety, there is one example that they have highlighted here where one user stated, "Barry, you're too good and talented for this Iger's soulless machine." To which Barry Jenkins replied with, "There is nothing soulless about The Lion King. For decades, children have sat in theaters all over the world experiencing collective grief for this time, engaging Shakespeare for the first time, across aisles and myriad languages. A most potent vessel for a communal empathy. A most potent vessel for communal empathy." But that's not the only one. There was also another case, another example that they brought up, in which another user who did previously interacted with Barry Jenkins by saying, "Come on, man, I interviewed you when you premiered Moonlight at the Toronto International Film Festival, and that Barry Jenkins wouldn't have said what you have just said. You could do a Disney movie for the check in order to work on your passion projects at a later time, but you don't have to shill like this." In which Barry Jenkins replied with, "Bruh, what kind of logic is that? How about this? Here are a few videos from the same Barry Jenkins who premiered Moonlight, as you put it, showing some of the things I was doing in my spare time at the same time I was writing Moonlight. Here we go." In which I believe, well, I just want to go and double check. I think like maybe he did put out some videos in response. Okay, no, you shut up. Here we go. Oh no, he didn't even put in anything. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's just Twitter just being Twitter. So yeah, I don't even know. So maybe he provided examples. So I don't know. But there is also one other example, and that is outside of Twitter, and that is apparently from an Empire interview. So just to go and read you here from my source on Variety, it states, "In a recent Empire interview, Jenkins also responded to this concern among fans that his creative expression will disappear in the world of film franchises. To which he stated here, when you step into a world that already exists, it can be easy to assume that freedom is denied. I think instead you have to just work to create freedom, and I think that was what this process was. A friend once said to me, you've done the thing you set out to do when, 10 years on, you could put the film up on the wall and point it and go, there, that's where I am." All right, now, before anything, let me just make one clarification, and this is honestly the one defense that I will give to Barry Jenkins. And I just want to say, I get it. Because part of your job of being the director of a big name movie like this is that you want to go and promote it. You want to ensure that people will go, that you want to get as many people to go and watch the feature as possible. And especially with the fact that this guy has been working on the movie for about a few years now. So in that regard, he does have some personal attachment to this movie in particular. So honestly, either way, like, it's pretty much his job. It's what he has to do. It's not like he's suddenly gonna come in and say, yeah, I know this thing is cringe, but I just want to make the money for it so that I make a better movie later. So yeah, I know this thing is gonna suck. Go watch Sonic 3 instead. No, you don't ever expect Barry Jenkins to go and immediately do that, okay? Like, either way, rather if it's his true feelings or not, he is contractually obligated to go and defend the feature and to go and promote the feature. To say that, yes, this is a project that he is heavily invested in, that he is passionate about, and that he is excited for people to go and check out. So in that regard, I completely get it for Barry Jenkins, for what he has to do, and why he would have to go and do those responses. But with that said, though, I cannot help but look into all of these responses, or at least some of these responses that Barry Jenkins would go, and I can't help but feel like just doing... it's just so, like, a lot of these are just... Yeah, he ain't even trying. Like, these are not great arguments, and it kind of makes him a little bit dumber than what he actually is. Like, especially this one right over here. Like, arguing about how, arguing about the whole soulless machine comment, but then he would go and say that Lion King isn't soulless. I mean, bruh, like, are you freaking serious? Like, are you gonna go and say, and make that argument right over there? Like, that what the commenter is saying, it's not about, like, this is not about the Lion King whatsoever. Like, the commenter is referring specifically to the live action remakes, to what Disney would go and produce again and again and again and again, that some audiences are just really not happy with, especially with the fact that they always bring out these movies that just turn out to be inferior versions of the animated features. I mean, there are those that I do enjoy. Like, I did like The Jungle Book, for example. And I do think there are some, like last year's Little Mermaid remake or even Cruella. They're actually kind of okay. But then you got all the others that they just feel unnecessary, and some of them can be flat out bad. From Aladdin to Beauty and the Beast to Dumbo to freaking Pinocchio on Disney Plus. Like, they could just range to just meh to flat out awful. And it's safe to say that with just about every single one of these movies, the animated films are always superior no matter what. So those are the things that actually feel a lot more soulless than anything else. It's not about the godforsaken Lion King. So this argument here, it's like, well, technically, Barry Jenkins is correct. The Lion King is not really soulless, but we're not talking about The Lion King in general. We're referring to the live-action remakes, especially the 2019 movie that is pretty much the same Lion King movie that we all know, except the animals all have an attitude of, meh, meh, oh no, oh, my dad fell, he's dead now? Oh, okay, whatever, man. It's always like that. Or especially, oh my god, the dumbest thing about the Lion King remake, one thing that unintentionally makes me laugh all the time, it's the musical numbers where instead of putting on a big show, it's literally just the animals just walking, especially like, I just can't wait to be king. Everybody's just saying, oh, I just can't wait to be king. And all you just see is just Simba and Nala and a bunch of animals behind just going like, that's freaking it, man. Like, talk about like a downgrade anticlimactic thing. Oh my god, it was like, honestly, there are some like, you gotta give the 2019 Lion King some credit. There are some moments where the blank facial expression, they can make some pretty funny moments, unintentional. But at least, hey, it's some form of entertainment, some form of unique entertainment that you would get that isn't in the original masterpiece of The Lion King. But then you also got, like, some of the others as well, like, some of the other comments, like, This is one thing I'll side a little bit on Barry Jenkins on. Like, there are a lot of people who would go and comment about like Barry Jenkins being involved, saying like, oh, he's too good to go and make something like this, or like the Barry Jenkins who made Moonlight wouldn't go and do something like this, like all that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, that's not necessarily a strong argument, like, especially from people who don't actually, like, if you're not a friend of Barry Jenkins, or if you don't actually know that guy personally, like, those comments, admittedly, they could be they could be dumb and absolutely pretentious. Like, I think it's safe to say that for any filmmaker out there, indie or not, like, there will be a point that, like, when they are successful enough, like, they will make some very strong indie films, but then at the same time, they would go and jump onto making big franchise movies as well. And honestly, like, there's a lot of people who would go and express that they're a little bit worried that, oh, this is going to ruin the reputation of Barry Jenkins, that he's gonna be rejected from Hollywood after doing something like this. But I'm just gonna say right now, I love what Barry Jenkins has done with his movies. I really do like Moonlight. I've already expressed that before. And I honestly believe, no matter what the outcome of Mufasa is, maybe the movie's gonna be absolutely garbage. Maybe it'll be an absolute box office bomb. But no matter what, I think afterwards Barry Jenkins is going to be okay. Case in point, take a look at Tim Burton. Because the funny thing with Tim Burton is that, like, he actually did do one of those live action remakes. He actually did the 2019 Dumbo. And I hate that movie. I think it's one of the worst of the live action remakes. It's absolute garbage. But with Tim Burton, many years later, he did admit that he did not like working on that Dumbo movie. Like, his contract was over, like, he moved on from, like, everything he would do with Disney, so he did open up that, yeah, like, working on that film was terrible, especially with, like, a lot of executive meddling that's been going on, so he would go and move on from that. And he did manage to find a little bit of success again afterwards when he did that Wednesday series for Netflix. So if Tim Burton would get a chance to go and actually, put himself back after making a terrible live action remake, I think things will be fine for Barry Jenkins as well. I think he's going to be absolutely okay. And yeah, and some people are even mentioning like the same thing with the Alice in Wonderland remake back in 2010, which some people could argue that's the thing that kind of initiated the live action remakes. But yeah, so honestly, I'm not too worried about what's been happening with Barry Jenkins, but I just want to go and say that overall with, like with his interaction with Twitter and stuff like that, obviously the dude has made some serious mistakes. Like one major mistake, by the way, that he did is be on Twitter. Like, Barry, what the fridge are you doing on Twitter? That alone is already an absolute mistake. Because usually, whenever there's some kind of, like, stupid online drama, or whenever there would be, like, some major controversies that would go and unfurl, the grand majority of them would always start with, well, you see, on Twitter. So in that regards, that's just, like, logging onto Twitter in general, that's just asking for trouble, especially with the way that Elon Musk would run things and that he's slowly but surely really corrupting it to the point that it virtually becomes unusable because of the amount of toxicity and hate speech, and especially with the right-wing brand of anti-Semitism that would go and brew onto there. It's best to just leave it. Honestly, one of the best decisions that I've made this year is quit Twitter altogether, and I do not regret it whatsoever. But then also, another major mistake that he would do is interact with those people on Twitter. I mean, if you want to find the largest group of Disney haters out there, it would easily be on Twitter, especially haters of the Disney live action remakes. So in that regards, trying to go and argue with those people, you're just feeding the trolls. There's nothing that you can win by arguing with them, especially if you're going to come up with some pretty bad arguments with stuff like this, saying that, oh, there's nothing soulless about The Lion King. You're making those haters and you're making those trolls actually look good. And at the end of the day, don't be freaking saying anything. Don't go and argue with people online to go and justify your project. If you want to go and really prove that this is actually worthwhile, if you want to prove the haters wrong, then just focus on the movie itself. Because at the end of the day, it's only going to be the feature that will ultimately prove if the movie is worthwhile or if it is a waste of time, like many of the doubters and the haters would go and say. And the more you would try to go and craft onto that, and the more you would go and focus, the more that you would be able to show that maybe you can offer something much more than another soulless Disney live action remake. So that's honestly the big lesson here. There's no point in arguing with people on the internet, especially in the comments. Just focus on doing what you want to do. I mean, I just want to say this right now. I do want Mufasa the Lion King to be good. I don't want this to be like another soulless Disney remake. I do want this to be worthwhile. I do want this to actually be worth my time. And I would like to see Barry Jenkins provide something in which could actually make it stand out, could actually make it enjoyable. I do want this movie to be good, but the only way to prove that will be to wait and see how the movie itself could legitimately come out. Maybe there is a chance that it will absolutely suck, but I'm not going to go and blindly take Barry Jenkins' word for it, like when he would go and try to make arguments on Twitter. That's not going to go and help Mufasa's case whatsoever, and you're certainly not doing, you're not going to be doing Disney any favors by doing that. So I just want to go and put in my piece with what Barry Jenkins is doing. I think it's honestly a dumb move of just complaining to trolls on Twitter and stuff like that. So honestly, yeah, like if you want to prove that if you want to prove that Mufasa the Lion King is not soulless, then stop logging onto Twitter and focus on actually making the movie. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about Barry Jenkins trying to defend The Lion King? I would love to know what you thought on that, and add in your piece with what's been going on. All right, so let's see what we got here. Yeah, and a lot of people, but a lot of people are even saying right now, blue sky is superior. Yes, exactly. Hey, we even managed to get Jack Dorsey out of the board. So hey, if you want, hey, it's free, by the way. You don't need an invite to go onto Blue Sky. So I just want to go and point this. Wait, where's my finger? Yeah, go right over here. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on TikTok. Well, yes, follow me on TikTok, but follow me on Blue Sky as well. So just letting you know, you'll see it's gonna feel like a far less toxic and actually enjoyable version of Twitter. It's Twitter without the anti-Semitism from Elon Musk and his fans. All right, anyways, Barry Jenkins, I like what you have done with Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, but your attempt to defend Mufasa, which you created, is not helping. Maybe don't be on Twitter or just ignore social media next time. Sorry, but what he is doing is asking for trouble that could cause his reputation to be damaged. Not to defend Mufasa at all, but you can't win by arguing with someone over on social media. Just talk about your project, talk about the project itself and nothing else. Exactly. Or just talk to the press. If you want to talk about the project right now, just talk to the press. Don't talk to random people on Twitter. Don't talk to random people on social media. The press is there to do that for you. And at least you'll be able to have the approval of Disney in order to do so. Let's see now. This is honestly a really bad take. As much as Barry Jenkins is a talented director, this was just stupid. I think it goes without saying that these remakes are nothing but soulless movies that are just meant to cash in on nostalgia. I get he's just doing his job, but still it makes him look bad, and I'm actually getting sick of the haters of these remakes that are actually remakes themselves. Yes, the cycle of these remakes. Basically, yeah, you want Disney to stop the remakes so that you could stop the haters complaining about it. I do understand. It's the circle of hate, and it's all soulless through despair and no hope. It ain't getting love. Oh boy, I am on a singing roll right now. Anyways, what else do we have here? What other comments? Okay, I can appreciate Barry Jenkins defending his movies. It sounds pretentious, but I am inclined to believe he does care. Honestly, I agree with what he said in working to create freedom, and that and that this is a thing filmmakers and creators are trying to do. We are in the IP era, and we do have to work within a system in order to one day make our creative vision a reality. I don't think Mufasa will be great, but I feel like as a prequel, there is more creative freedom for him and the others to work on. Exactly. Like, even when there are movies that would come out as bad, like, there will be, like, the people who do make them, like, they would be passionate. Like, it's often more likely than not that they will like it, regardless of what audiences and critics are going to say. Like, I'm sure that the people at Disney Animation, like, regardless of what people will go and comment about Wish, I'm sure that many, if not most or all of them, like, they really did enjoy their time working on Wish and bringing this project to life, including the directors and producers. So just want to go and mention that. You know, again, it's more often than not that filmmakers who do work on their movies or their projects, even when it takes years, they will have a personal connection and that they will actually like what they do. You know, it's all in the creative process. What can I say? I just know that it's not just a breeding ground for hate against Disney. Yes, there will be some people that will blindly hate the company, but that doesn't apply to everyone. This is why I personally hate it when people use the word hater, because it makes the person in question sound pathetically defensive. With me, I may be occasionally cynical towards Disney, but I wouldn't say I blindly hate them. My cynicism is more out of concern and wanting the company to be consistently competent. Well, yeah, I think, like, it is safe to say we all want to go and do that. And unfortunately, no company is often like that. It's the way that you have to go and express your criticism, to go and express your concern. You know, there are one best way to go and do so is that you need to go and, like, set your emotions aside. And trust me, like, in the past, I have made that mistake. You got to go and set your emotions aside. Don't express with your anger, but express with your concern. Like, you got to go and comment as in a way that you want to help, you want to help the companies like Disney or whatever. You want to see that they want to do better. But if you're going to go, like, rant and be angry about it, that's not going to actually help out. So it's in the way that you express your criticisms that's going to help out to go and define if you really are just a hater, or if you want to go and help out the company, or if you want to help out whatever you're criticizing. I think I'll read one more comment and then we'll go on to our last break. Let's see. To state as before, I thought the first film was okay. What do you expect? They're animals. You asked for a documentary style version, you got it. Well, technically, I could argue that, well, nobody really asked for that, but okay. Anyways, heck, you forgot the death scene was hilariously bad. Yes, there is that too. All right, for real though, I do understand what he is trying to do, and even kind of having some hope for the movie as well. If I want to see it, I want to have a good time. But I could say that's a major oops for him. Never respond to trolls. P.S. Aladdin was decent. Alan Menken's Friend Like Me was awesome. Well, I mean, Alan Menken has been on board with, like, Aladdin, even with the original version, so I'm just saying. But anyways, we are going to be in for one more break, and oh boy, did I save the craziest story for last. You don't want to miss this one, folks, because we are going to see the return of a controversial figure, but now he's going to be out for revenge. So stay tuned for the return of an angry version of Dan Schneider. And now, everyone, it is now time. We are capping this episode off with the grand finale. And for this finale, we are going to get back to a story, like, honestly, one of the most talked about theories of this year so far, which is Quiet on Set. Now, you think that it's all over now. Like, all the episodes have officially aired, including the bonus 5th episode. Everybody had their discussion piece. We've all talked about it. And that now we feel like there is more justice that is being served to the victims that were once child actors at Nickelodeon, including Drake Bell. So, in that regards, okay, we can finally move on, and hopefully there will be a brighter future, and bringing, and like now we highlighted a serious problem when it comes to child actors, that the issue can be more addressed. But hold on, though, we're not done yet, because now there is a new chapter that is coming on, and one that is honestly, well, I think the best way to say it is that it is the most surprising and not surprising at the same time story that we got from last week. And what it is, folks, is of course the revenge of Dan Schneider. Yes, folks, it has been revealed that Dan Schneider is gonna go and file a lawsuit against the producers of Quiet on Set, specifically for defamation, in which he is going to go and sue Warner Brothers, Maxim Productions, Sony Pictures, producer Mary Robertson, and Emma Schwartz. And he wanted to go, and you probably do recall that previously when we talked about Dan Schneider, he actually released a 19-minute apology video on his own channel in which most people just laughed it off. Like just about everyone saw through his apology that it was completely manufactured, it was all fake, and no one was buying it. Like, now we all know about the things that he has done within those productions that he would go and produce, like All That, or The Amanda Show, or iCarly, or Zoe 101, and stuff like that. And in that regards, even if his apology was genuine, nobody is going to go out and actually accept it. So I guess now it is time for Plan B, and to go and do a defamation lawsuit against Quiet on Set. And reading from my source here on Deadline, by the way, in which it is stated right over here, now, Schneider wants the series to be held accountable too. In the lawsuit, the one-time hitmaker called the series a hit job that destroyed his legacy and reputation. The limited series that was a rating boon for Investigation Discovery, or is it Investigation Discovery? Yeah, okay, yes, that's what the channel is called. Anyways, did reveal how two child sexual abusers did work on his show. Dialogue coach Brian Peck and former production assistant Jason Handy. But Schneider claims the suit that he had no knowledge of their abuse was not complicit in their abuse. No doubt defendants will endeavor to obfuscate what this lawsuit is about by pointing out that what they did get right, and Schneider will be the first to admit that some of what they said are true. At times, he was blind to the pain that some of his behaviors caused certain colleagues, subordinates, and cast members. He will regret and atone for this behavior for the rest of his life. But one thing he's not, and the one thing that will forever mar his reputation, both past and present, is a child sexual abuser. We also got a comment from Dan Schneider himself, in which he stated, "Recently, the docuseries Quiet on Set highlighted mistakes I made and poor judgment I exhibited during my time at Nickelodeon, most of which happened decades ago during my early career as a producer, working on shows for Tolan Robbins Productions. There is no doubt that I was sometimes a bad leader. I am sincerely apologetic and regretful for that behavior, and I will continue to take accountability for it." Boy, where the fridge do I begin with all this? Where do I begin with what Dan Schneider is trying to do. Okay, I think first and foremost, it is safe to say that the apology that he tried to do, that's pretty much thrown out the window. In fact, I would even say it is crazy that he is trying to do this defamation lawsuit while at the same time still trying to say that he's sorry and that he feels like he should be held accountable for that. Like, he's still trying to do all that thing. What the fridge is it, Dan? Are you sorry for it, or are they lying about you? Because honestly, this is honestly very conflicting. And this is a case where actions speak louder than words. If you really do feel that you are sorry for the things that you have done and that that you should be held accountable for your actions, then why the fridge are you even doing this lawsuit in the first place? Why are you even suing for defamation? It feels like you're sending out very conflicting messages over here. That are like, you even admitted, like, even in the lawsuit, it has stated that the things that Quiet on Set has stated is actually true. You know, they admitted that even towards the criticisms about Dan Schneider, that they are actually legitimate. And yet you want to go and sue them for defamation. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Again, which one is it, Dan? Should you be held accountable? Or do you want to sue them for defamation? Because you cannot freaking do both. You know, it feels absolutely backwards. And honestly, it feels like we cannot freaking trust what you would go and say right over here. And number two, by the way, this is also the second thing that is absolutely stupid. But apparently the reason why Dan Schneider wants to go and sue Quiet on Set is because he's accusing the documentary for portraying him as a child sexual abuser, a pedo, if you will. And if you have actually seen the documentary, that is not the case whatsoever. They have clarified that the people who have committed the worst actions are not from Dan Schneider. It's from the people like Brian Peck and Jason Handy and that third guy. Like, those are the people who are, those are the people who are like the absolute worst. But with that said, though, that doesn't mean that Dan Schneider is not the bad guy. That doesn't mean that he should not be held accountable for what he has done. That doesn't mean what he has done is wrong. Because honestly, what Dan Schneider is doing is like those pathetic arguments when it comes to defending John Lasseter. I have seen a few of those people who to this day would still try to defend John Lasseter by saying that, well, yeah, some of the things he has done is wrong, but hey, at least he's not Harvey Weinstein. So, I mean, you shouldn't be too harsh about it. Yeah, but like, okay, maybe he didn't commit like some of the worst actions like John Kay or Harvey Weinstein or Chris Savino or whatever. But that doesn't mean that John Lasseter's behavior during his time at Pixar and Disney is okay. That doesn't mean that at all. Because the thing is, John Lasseter, what his actions have done still makes him count as a sexual predator. Like, he was committing predatory actions towards those young women. And allegedly, he is still brewing that toxicity. Like, I don't know if it's like any of the sexual harassment stuff, but a lot of the other toxicity that he has enabled at Pixar and Disney, he is still doing at Skydance Animation to this day. That makes it an absolute hellhole to go and work with. So in that regards, like with that failed argument that John Lasseter is doing, it looks like Dan Schneider is trying to do that for himself. And again, nobody accused him of actually being a child sexual predator. We know he's not the one who is committing the worst acts. But that doesn't mean that the things that he has done during his time at Nickelodeon is absolutely wrong. The way that he was being a complete misogynist towards his female workers. The way that he is brewing that toxic work environment when positioned as the leader of those shows. And especially the way that he would go and make these creepy gags. Like, maybe he's not a pedo, but he is an absolute creep, especially with the kind of humor that he would go and deliver towards, well, not towards, but that he would go and have those young child stars to go and do that really feel awkward and wrong, and why it feels like it's kind of difficult to go back and rewatch those shows like All That and The Amanda Show and Zoe 101. It just makes things extremely awkward right now. So in that regards, yeah, you don't like I don't even, like, honestly, I just want to say, I don't even know where Dan Schneider is really coming from. Like, not the documentary never stated that you were one of the sexual predators, but you did provide an environment that kind of enables that you're kind of defending, well, not maybe defending is too harsh of a word, but that you are in a place where you did build a safe space for those kinds of child sexual predators, especially with the kind of humor that you would keep on delivering again and again. Of course, nobody would go and expect it. It's just part of the, like it would just feel like part of the course in the job. So of course, like, you're just like, regardless if you know it or not, the fact that you are even doing it and feeding material for those predators is still absolutely wrong. So yes, Dan, maybe you're not a child sexual predator, but you are a misogynist and a creep. And that is enough to go and have your reputation be ruined, to take everything that you have and have that taken away and replace that with nothing but shame. Excuse me for a sec. I just need to cough a little bit. Okay, just need to go and clear my throat over there. But it is honestly very interesting, though, just looking at this lawsuit of what Dan Schneider is trying to do, like taking action, like to go against Quiet on Set. Like, even though he would say that he's not a predator, these are legitimate predatory actions. This is something that a predator would go and do, and that is to desperately avoid accountability to his actions. Because right now, like, we all know for a fact that like these things, animation fans and Nickelodeon fans, we've known this for quite some time. Like especially some people have even stated that the first time that they have heard about like the creepiness of Dan Schneider was with the Blame It on Jorge video on YouTube that he uploaded years ago. This is something that many fans have been very well aware of, and then suddenly with Quiet on Set, now it's put into a massive spotlight in which, yes, now it is the time that karma and justice would be faced against Dan Schneider. And yet, even though the apology did not work out, he is still like, that's the biggest thing that I feel like his actions are trying to say here, more so than his words that's filled with apology and wanting to accept accountability. Nah, man, you don't want to accept accountability. That's exactly the thing you want to go and try to dodge. And even like this lawsuit here, I would even say this is a hit piece. This is not to go and reclaim his reputation. This is not to go and save his name, but to go and damage the accuser, to go and attack those who did hold him accountable, to go and attack those who did call him out, to make them look bad, to destroy their reputation in order to go and reclaim his. That's the whole point of this lawsuit. And I know this because I have seen this done, and it's slowly becoming a bit more of a thing with people who have this abusive and predatory mindset. In fact, there is actually one example that I can think of that I feel like has some very strong parallels to what Dan Schneider is doing with this lawsuit. And you probably know which one that I am talking about. And on a side note, yeah, and some people have even mentioned that, like, there's even the book by Jeanette McCurdy in which she didn't directly call him out, but she did leave some obvious clues in terms of in terms of who would go and actually like she's referring to as the abusive producer. So even she called him out before. But back to what I was talking about, yes, there is another person that I feel like Dan Schneider is very similar to. Someone who at what point is an icon in the entertainment industry, especially in the genre that he was once in. And his predatory actions were known for a few years, but it wasn't until that one instance that was really put onto the spotlight, everybody called him out on it, especially his victims. And then, even though he tried to apologize, he would then go and immediately do a defamation lawsuit that ended disastrously for him, where now he owes hundreds of millions of dollars to the defendants he would try to go and sue. And you know who I'm talking about? It is indeed Vic Mignogna. I feel like a lot of what Dan Schneider is doing with his lawsuit, it feels very similar to what Vic Mignogna tried to go and do against Funimation and some of his victims like Monica Rial and Jamie Markey. The only thing that I feel like is missing is that Dan Schneider doesn't have those right-wing grifters who are trying to take advantage and capitalize on his downfall. I think that's the only thing that really is missing, where they try to go and pretend to support Dan Schneider, to go and save Dan Schneider or say that he's innocent or whatever. And Vic Mignogna is not the only person who would go and do so. Recently, we have seen some other examples. One person even brought up another great example, is actually Illuminati, where she tried to go and do the same thing. Where, like, I'm sure we have all known about her story. Like, we all know about the story with how Illuminati, like, she has a history of plagiarism and is very abusive towards her editors, towards the people who work for her, and even those that she went into a relationship with. And she would even go and threaten them with a defamation, knowing that those people have absolutely nothing, that they cannot fight back in order to make things go her way. So yes, that is another example of a predatory and abusive person who would try to use a defamation lawsuit. And even another example I could think of is Elon Musk. This is another abusive and predatory person who does try to do defamation lawsuits in order to make things go his way. Like, there's even one great example where there was a media outlet that actually called him out on the fact that he would use Twitter in order to enable not just hate speech, but especially anti-Semitism. That he would even go as far as to go and promote anti-Semitism. And it's one of the biggest examples of how Elon Musk and all his fans are far more anti-Semitic than what people claim the college protesters are when they're supporting Palestine. So in that regards, we saw a whole bunch of advertisers just bail out from Twitter not to be associated with Elon's brand of anti-Semitism. And in response, Elon tried to go and do a defamation lawsuit on that media outlet. Now, thankfully, the media outlet did win the case. Like, the judge just flat out rejected it because, well, the media outlet is perfectly safe, and like they did everything they did everything legally because it is freedom of speech, ironically enough, for Elon Musk. But still, though, Elon wanted revenge for being held accountable to his actions. And as the predatory abuser that he is, he tried to use defamation lawsuits in order to make things go his way and to hurt people who called him out. So rather it be people like Illuminati, Elon Musk, Vic Mignogna, or even Dan Schneider here, this is the result of a predator. This is an abusive person who desperately wants to go and avoid any consequences to his actions. And this right over here, I feel like Dan Schneider is doing a massive disservice to himself. He is further justifying what Quiet on Set is trying to do, or what Quiet on Set is trying to say about him. And the more he is trying to take action in order to escape accountability, the more he is justifying what the allegations are against him are. And it shows more and more that yes, the victims are actually correct about Dan Schneider's behavior, that he is a misogynist, that he is a creep, that he is an abusive tyrant, and that he deserves to have his reputation be ruined. So I think it is safe to say that you don't need to be a legal expert to know that Dan Schneider is going to lose this, and that he's further making Quiet on Set actually look good. So I just want to go and put my piece onto this because honestly, yeah, Dan Schneider is ready to go, and let's just say he is really inflating his L. Alright, so with that said, now I want to go into the chat wall, and I like to ask, what do you all think about this entire lawsuit? What do you think about Dan Schneider's actions of trying to file a defamation lawsuit on Quiet on Set? Let me know what you think. Well, let's see now. Dirty Dan, the foot fetish Schneider, is really going as far by suing the producers of Quiet on Set to claim that he was in the wrong, right? The answer for his future is outlook not so good. I can't believe Schneider would do this despite confirming what the documentary said is true. If his end goal is to stay relevant to the public and not admit that he was wrong, then he's going to lose to the court 100%. Sorry, Dirty Dan, but you're going to get your butt whooped altogether. Exactly. So, wait, what was the point of that fake apology video? I'm honestly not shocked Dan Schneider would try something like this. Everything the documentary explained is true, and it honestly reflects how much of a liar he is, and he deserves this kind of karma, and it still doesn't change that he and Nickelodeon enabled that toxic behavior during the making of those shows. Exactly, and that's the thing with Dan Schneider, is that the reason why he made that apology video is to go and escape accountability. He was hoping that just by saying he's sorry, nobody would view him as the bad guy and just focus on the actual child sexual predators. But obviously, it did not work, so he's desperately going into plan B, which is to go and attack Quiet on Set and the producers and try to make them look bad so that he can reclaim some credibility himself. Let's see now. Man, this has been a really bad year for Nickelodeon, with them trying to revive Fairly OddParents again, Paramount in major jeopardy if they don't decide to merge with another company, and Dan Schneider's reputation going down the major toilet, where he is sinking so low that his attempts to apologize have just given him no more chance of climbing out over that toilet ever again. Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see. I don't believe a darn thing Dan Schneider says. I hope he loses badly. As a producer, he has a lot more power than most of the people on set. To downplay as being a bad leader in his early career, Dan could have done more to protect the most vulnerable people on set. He didn't. He protected people like he liked and took advantage of people who would be too scared to fight back. Just because he didn't commit to the worst acts doesn't change the fact that he did know and didn't do creepy and gross things. Exactly, man. If you want to be a bad leader, then actually own up to it. Don't commit stupid actions like making an obvious fake manufactured video where you would apologize or try to do a defamation lawsuit. If you want to own up to it, actually own up to it. Be a real freaking man for once, Dan. Other than fantasizing about 12-year-old foot so that you can fetishize or whatever. Well, anyways, I remember watching Schneider's bakery show when I was in my teens. Eventually, I stopped watching them around 2021 because of my lack of interest. After watching Quiet on Set, I don't think I can ever watch them again. I hope Schneider loses the lawsuit because of his actions coming to light. I hope Schneider will go to prison like Harvey Weinstein, although I doubt that. Yeah, I think that might be too much to ask if he would go to prison. At the most, it's just really, it's just he's going to lose the court of public opinion. It's just really, I don't think he's going to be in jail, but it's just, it's his reputation that's really going to go down the drain. That's really the best that you can ask for. Let's see now. Oh, Dirty Dan, he's pretty much blasting his own foot with an atom bomb. This whole lawsuit just shows that Dan has done the most idiotic move ever. I am definitely on the documentary side, since what Dan was just what Dan did was just disgusting and misogynistic. His apology is very unacceptable. I just hope he'll lose this entire lawsuit. This man should be in prison for his predatory actions. All right, let's see what else we have here. I think I might read 2 more comments and then we'll be done with this episode. Nah, Dan, we all know what you did. Don't try to hide the fact of how you treated the actors because everything the docuseries said about you is true. He has no chance at winning this lawsuit and he deserves to face the consequences of his actions. All right, let's see now. What is there more to say? He made an apology and now he's suing them. Basically, he's filling the fire with gas. Even if I was naive at the time, Schneider couldn't be any more as a creep than it was in his works. And Jeanette McCurdy is a true heroine of the story. Things couldn't be any more sad that that you kind of wish for the Me Too movement would have been back in the 90s than they did now. If he meets a falling tower, I'm sure he'll have that mark to have no one at his funeral. Yeah, I think it is safe to say, I don't even have to make a poll for this. I think it is safe to say that nobody is on Team Schneider now. And with that said, folks, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Holy crap, what an epic episode it has been. Man, I love it when we have a massive dose of craziness. This is going to be one memorable episode, I must say. And I want to say thank you all so much for joining me on this. So, if you would like to go and follow me more of my crazy adventures with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel and the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. At the same time, don't forget to go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, whether it be on Spotify, Google, or maybe not Google. I don't know if Google is like working anymore. Spotify, Amazon, and iTunes. There we go. And with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.